Hello there, Trash Pandas! It's time to cover something that I've been wanting to talk about for so long. It's a piece of media about a feral child with spiky hair who loses his grandpa and goes on a journey to save the world. See, this one has to collect 7 magical items and he has pink hair. Oh, for Tombi is a game that I've been obsessed with for about as long as I've owned consoles. And yes, I'm calling it Tombi. The American release was called Tomba, but the one I grew up with was Tombi. I don't even think there's any differences between them aside from the opening cutscene having a different music track, so it's all fine. I promise. Really. It's Tombi. But it's a game that just about everyone who owned the original PlayStation back in the day probably encountered, and yet very few people seem to have actually played past the first half hour or so. See, it was included on one of the demo discs packaged with the PlayStation back in the day, and it was a surprisingly long demo for the time. But it does mean that most of the nostalgia only goes so far. The actual full release is frustratingly rare to find. Well, I mean, that was the case when I started putting this video together. But as of last week, the chosen one has returned. And after over 25 years, we've actually gotten a remastered version for modern consoles. That slipped under the f***ing radar. So, now I have a mix of old and new footage. There's not really a tremendous difference actually. They kept the classic look untouched. It's just a little bit more polished and it's in a higher resolution. See if you can spot the difference. The best way I can describe Tombi is as an open world platformer. You run around fighting evil pigs and various monsters, swinging a spiky ball on a string to stun enemies, and then jumping on them to grapple them, with your next jump throwing them across the screen. And that's basically the controls. There's more mechanics added as you progress, but it always comes down to that core control style. And I actually absolutely love that. The amount of mileage and variety the game manages to achieve without changing up the control scheme is actually really impressive. So immediately after starting the game, an event pops up, and this is your gameplay loop. These events will appear constantly, usually with some cryptic name, to push you to the next part of the story, as well as a load that aren't really required, but they're fun side quests with some pretty good rewards. And there's a lot. A whole lot. Get used to this sound. And then before you know it, you'll be 50 events in with no idea when the skills ramped up for taking a frog to a pond, to then healing a phoenix so you can fly all the way to the jungle. Well, the jungle that's apparently right next to the starting area, we'll get to that. See, there are no specific levels, just environments. Every area connects to each other, and you'll actually start to notice that more and more entrances open up as shortcuts to the earlier areas, kind of tying everything up in a nice little bow. I did once actually try to map up in my mind how all of the maps connect to each other, and then I started smelling toast. But it's story time. So Tombi, this weird animal child, was just chasing after wild boars like a feral goblin when he spots his grandpa getting robbed by pigs. So antics ensue, Tombi gets hit on the head, they steal his bracelet, and he heads off on an adventure to track them down. You'll start to learn that the pigs are hoarding gold for the 7 evil pigs, each of which has actually cursed a part of the land. So you're tasked with finding each pig's bag, which will reveal their hidden door, so you can stuff them inside and heal that part of the land. And so, as you progress, you'll see the land change and evolve around you, actually making you feel the impact that you're having on the world. Oh, so you're off to see the phoenix. Well, you see, it's through this cave, but the cave's on fire, so you're gonna have to track down the fire pig to get any further. Oh, but the evil pigs aren't stupid enough to stay in the area they've cursed, no. You're going to have to explore and work out where the pig is for yourself. There are a couple of fortune tellers you will eventually find who will give you an extremely vague description of where the pigs are. But honestly, the whole point of this game is to root through every possible inch of every area. Get it? Root like a... Oh, never mind. Even if you don't find the solution to your current problem, you'll inevitably find new equipment, or a secret entrance to another area, or unlock some new events. I don't think there's a single part of this game that just functions as a dead end. Literally every single detail seems to be relevant at one point or another. You can get to quite late game to the jungle area and be told you need to hike all the way back to the Haunted Mansion. And while you could use one of the 10,000 fast travel wings that the game gives you, or, spoiler alert, the dog with giant wing-sized ears that... Actually, you know what, let's come back to that one. You actually end up taking a raft all the way back there. Turns out the river in the jungle actually leads right back to the starting area. Do not ask me how the fuck the ecosystems in this area work, just accept that it's Minecraft logic. Tombi thrives on that tongue-in-cheek, bizarre logic that a lot of early and even current anime has kind of made an art form. Oh, I lost a very important item. Oh, you found my yam. Great, now I can fart. What, you rescued a dog? It seems like it has really big ears. I wonder if it could fly. Lol, JK. Oh, but if you could get these healing items that are spread across the map. He seems to really like you, with his big ears. Maybe he has special powers. What? You found bananas? Oh, I'm gonna juice. I'm trying not to fall into the trap of endlessly praising Tombi. Like, don't get me wrong, it absolutely deserves all of the praise. It was an absolutely phenomenal game, but that's always going to come with the caveat of, for its time. The controls are great overall, but the platform can be questionable. Especially, say, for example, in the flower area, where you're not going to know if there's a platform underneath you until you've already fallen past it. Although I think quite a few platformers had that issue. Or then there's the collision detection on slopes, where I know for a fact I was above the pig, but because he started sliding up the slope, technically the physics engine says no. Oh, and for the love of Phoenix Mountain. I'm actually kinda used to it at this point, so it didn't really ring any alarm bells. But then I watched my partner play through it for the first time in about 20 years, and honestly the rage produced could have fueled a city. It's honestly fantastic to see that there is this unbelievable amount of nostalgia surrounding Tombi. I mean, just the response to the remix has just shown the level of feral following that such a blip in the gaming history has actually managed to amass. I mean, I haven't mentioned it yet, but the soundtrack is just embedded in my brain. And they've actually managed to make the remake versions flawlessly take those same feelings, but also translate it into something that modern technology can actually play. It's just all around glorious. I've tried as best as I can to keep neutral while writing this, but honestly, Tombi is a part of my childhood, and I will always have the best of times when I go back to play through it again. In fact, I honestly think I'm about to start another run. But this has been a love letter to Tombi. Oh, this has been a big one for me. When I started this channel, there were two games I wanted to talk about. There was 9 The Last Resort, and there was Tombi. I was sort of holding off on this one until I hit some sort of undefined milestone, but with the remake just coming out, I couldn't hold it in any longer. I absolutely adore this game, and all I ever really want is for these videos to find people who feel the way that I do. But, that aside, as always, I appreciate every bit of support, so if you do feel like hitting all those good buttons, you are absolutely amazing. But either way, thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you next time.